Hello there, and welcome to the Tunes From Doolin Podcast, an Irish traditional music interview series presented by myself, Charles Monod, and featuring guests from County Clare and beyond who come and visit us here in Doolin. On each episode of the show, we are guided by tunes picked and played by our guests, and we talk about various topics related to traditional music, such as sources of inspiration, repertoire, style, memories, and much, much more. If you'd like to support this podcast and the Tunes From Doolin project in general, you can head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/tunesfromdoolin, where you can sign up and choose a support level that you can sustain. It doesn't have to be much. Even a cup of coffee per month really goes a long way. The link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for your support. Our guest for this episode is Susan Daly from Doolin. Susan used to play with Micho Russell when she was younger and has great stories about Doolin. Hope you enjoy the tunes in our chat and make sure to stick around till the end to know more about Susan and the music of Doolin. Enjoy. Thank you so much for this lovely jig, Susan, and welcome to the Tunes From Doolin podcast.
Oh, thank you, Charles. Great to be here.
So, for those, for the listeners who might not know you, your name is Susan Daly. You are from Doolin, born here, and pretty much lived in the village all your life. Could you tell us a bit more about who you are, your family background, and...
My family background, I was born in Doolin, obviously, and my family background is from O'Connor's Pub. My father was Gus and my mother Dal. God rest them both now. And I had the privilege of spending many, many years in pub life in Doolin, which was definitely the education of life. We had some great times, great music, great people. Worked very hard, but I have to say, my memories are all good memories. Now, we had tough times, without a doubt, but the good times have overridden the tough times when I think back of when I was a young girl in the village, you know.
That's brilliant, and that's actually a great introduction, and I'll do the transition because obviously we talk about music on this podcast, and a lot of people might not know you as a musician, and I had to talk you into doing this podcast with me, so thanks for accepting. Because you have a lot of music memories, especially with Micho Russell and his brothers and the other musicians in the village, but you had a special relationship with Micho, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Micho taught me how to play from the age of 12. I kept asking him because, you know, I was looking at people every day playing in the pub, and I was thinking, God, I'd love to do that. I had such a love and a graw, as we say, for the music. And Micho said, okay. And the first tune he taught me was A Wooden Heart. And I was like, oh, Micho, seriously, I want to learn a reel or a jig or a hornpipe. And he said, no, you have to start there now, Susan. So I learned that tune with him. And I never learned how to read music. It was solely by ear.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 12 when I started playing with Micho. So by the time, we'd play literally every day together, and he taught me more and more tunes. But I was never really that confident when it came to playing music. I felt very comfortable with Micho, but when it came to actually playing in a session, I never felt right about doing that. I don't know, I just didn't. It just didn't work for me at all, but I had great times. Micho and I, then at 15, he said he was going to Germany, and he said, any chance you might come with me? So I said, sure, I might as well. And I remember going to my father, God rest him, and I said, Daddy, I'm going to Germany with Micho Russell. And I had to get a passport, so I had to go into the Garda station in Listonville, get that organised. And my father and mother, they didn't even hesitate. They said, absolutely, off you go. So Micho and myself and Jimmy Maloney, a local world champion dancer, headed for Germany.
And you were only 15 at the time.
15 years of age. I mean, it was madness, really. But Micho looked after us. He was like our father figure, really. And he introduced us to a whole new world. Like, we were moving out of Doolin, for one thing. We were in Dublin, which was a huge move. And then from there, we went on to Germany. And it was the same as being at home. Micho just went on as normal. There was no change in the way he was with people. And he took everything as it came. He never got bothered, and he never got stressed. And because it didn't bother Micho, it didn't bother us.
Yeah,
That's
you were just going with his flow.
Totally. We followed Micho's lead, Sure, he was great. I mean, he was marvellous, really. And he entertained that crowd like no one did. He was singing, he was dancing, and he was playing. And then at that time, I started playing the pipes very badly. But anyways, I loved the pipes.
Well, I was going to ask you about it. What age were you when you picked up the pipes?
When I started playing the pipes, I was about 13.
Okay, so very soon after starting on the whistle,
yeah.
You had. And where did the idea to play the pipe come from? Because was there any pipers in Doolin per se?
No, but Willie Clancy spent a lot of time at home with us. Okay, so I used to love listening to. I absolutely love the pipes. To this day, I'm the same. But a very good friend of mine, Dick Grant. Dick was a great friend of the family, and Dick played pipes. And my father said, anyway, you might be able to get her a set of pipes. So he got me a set of Leo Rowsome pipes from the north of Ireland. Not the full set, I didn't have the regulators. So that was sure when I got them, I drove everyone in the street mad, like they couldn't believe this. When you're learning how to play, and I was never that great at them, but I used to really enjoy learning new tunes. But Micho said, sure, bring the pipes with you. So off I took with the pipes.
No bother.
To Germany. Oh, no bother. Oh, my God, when I think about it. But, yeah, we had Micho, myself and Jimmy. We got on great as a trio. And none of us spoke German, obviously. But Micho was able to communicate in his own way.
Yeah. And
they understood him. So it went very well.
It worked. And I'm curious, so I'd say the pipes, so we're talking early 70s.
Yeah.
Was there many women playing the pipes back then? I mean, there were not many pipers in general.
Well, I wasn't familiar with any women pipers. The first one that I became familiar with was Mara Negrada.
Yes.
Who I think is an amazing musician and piper.
Sure.
But different people would come to the pub. They heard about this girl playing the pipes. And I mean, I got a great name for playing pipes. But none of them hardly ever heard me. So I kept it like that. I thought, I don't want to ruin the image that I've developed, even though, I never played in front of hardly anybody, to be honest with you, But Mara Negrada would have been the first that she's an amazing piper, yeah.
Yeah. And did you just taught yourself, or did you get a few tips from the likes of
Dick Grant was very good. Dick taught me for a while, and then I used to go to Sean Reid in Ennis.
Lovely.
Who was a great friend of Willie Clancy's, and Sean used to make the reeds as well for me for the pipes. So every Friday I'd go to Ennis. My father would bring me to Ennis to Sean Reid, and sure, Sean was like He was the second father figure in my life.
Okay.
I spent years going into Sean, yeah. He took great care of me as well. So I was very privileged, really, as a young girl, to have Micho Russell, Sean Reid, Dick Grant, taking care of me in my musical journey, if you'd say, you know.
And you kept playing for a few years anyway, because I know you even entered some competitions with Micho, didn't you?
Oh, Micho and I entered Micho said, we'll enter the Munster. No, he said, we'll enter this competition. Micho on the flute and I in the tin whistle. So I always say, sure, I'd agree to whatever Micho say. So off we took anyways, and we were in the Jet Club in Ennis. It was known as then Paddy Cons, across from the old ground there. It's a furniture shop now, but Madden's Furniture. But so we played, and didn't we win it? We won the Munster, which was really, oh my God. Like, neither of us felt we deserved it. We were Seamus Gray and Jackie Daly were our competition on the day. And everyone...
Some competition, in fairness.
Yeah, oh God, sure. I mean, they were amazing. So everyone, more than assumed that they would win it. But they gave it to Micho and myself, which meant we were automatically entered to the All-Ireland in Listowel. So that was some evening, I'll tell you, to be going around. We were declared champion, which was a huge, big deal, what age was I? I was 15, 16. And so then that meant I was automatically entered to the Scollaigsha in Listowel for piping. So I got in and I was being taught for the week by Dan Dowd, who was a lovely, lovely pipe maker as well from Dublin.
And would you remember who else would have been in your class or the young pipers at the time?
Davy Spillane, Michael Coyne. We were all living in the same house in Listowel together for the week.
Must have been some crack.
Honest to God, yeah. Imagine all that. That's nearly 50 years ago now, Charles. I'm nearly ashamed to say 50 years, but yeah. Yeah, we're all of the same vintage. Davy, myself, Michael, yeah. But they went on to be amazing pipers,
Yeah, we'll probably talk a little later in the episode about why maybe you stopped music and all that. But just before we started recording this, we were going through a couple of tunes and you were telling me how nervous you were about performing, and you mentioned even something that happened in the All-Ireland competition. We
were down in Listowel in where the competition was being held, and in front of us, so we were up on the stage, Micho and I, and you looked out into the audience and all you could see was banners up Doolin, because everyone knew Micho. And I got so anxious that we were playing a reel, the first tune was a reel, and the tin whistle fell out of my mouth. I really didn't know what I was doing. Oh, it was desperate. Oh my, well obviously we didn't win it.
Well, it's great to have you here today and play some tunes here. I think maybe we'll play another tune, will we?
Yeah, great. Charles, yeah.
Nice. The Boys of Bluehill. It's a lovely tune.
Yeah, Micho always played it. I'd say it was nearly one of Micho's favourites, Mm-hmm. And you don't hear many people play it now, but people say it's a simple tune. But I don't think it is a simple tune. I think there's lovely variety in it.
Yeah, and even if it is simple, there's nothing wrong with simple. Simple can be
simplicity is key, you see.
Yeah.
And Micho had that approach to music. He made it seem and sound so simple. And yet to repeat his performance, he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And he changed the tune so many times. I used to say to him, we'd play the first part, and then he'd teach me the turning of the tune. And I'd say, Micho, play that now again, show me again. And he'd never played the same. He'd never played the same twice over.
Yeah, he wouldn't actually be probably able, because the tune in his head was constantly...
Oh, yeah, the music. Well, my grandmother was a concertina player, my father's mother. Her name was Susan O'Connor as well. And Nana, anytime I'd learn a tune from Micho, she'd always say to me, hum the tune now. Hum the tune, Susan. And if I didn't hum it right, she said, no, you don't know. Go on, go in and learn that tune right. I had to have it in my head before I ever played it.
Yeah, I'm the same. Give me a tune that I've never heard to learn, and that's like an impossible challenge. You need to have them in your head.
Well, if it's in your head, it's in your heart, and you'll bring it. It'll sound so much better when you play it.
Yeah, and obviously Micho was such a big part of the music scene in Doolin back in the 60s, 70s, and up until he died in the 90s. But could you tell us maybe a little bit about the other musicians and characters that were there at the time?
Well, you had the Russells, you had Micho and Packy and Gussie. Micho was we'll say, the one with the most... He was the easiest to approach as a musician. He loved people. He enjoyed talking to people, and he loved to entertain. So you never felt you were imposing when you were dealing with Micho. Packy now was Packy had his favourites that he would like to speak to, and he'd share music with them and share tunes with them and spend time with them. And then Gussie was very reserved character, lovely. I mean, the three of them were great people and great musicians. Then you had the Killory brothers, you had John Killory and Paddy and Teddy. Teddy was in England for a long time, but he eventually came back. But Paddy played fiddle and John played flute and whistle. And they were always, in the village as well.
There's those, I'm sure you've seen the clips that uilleann has posted of John and Paddy playing a few tunes in their house. And they tell that story of their brother being gone for something like
Teddy was gone for years. Yeah.
And just walks back.
And Paddy says to Teddy, I swear that's our Teddy. I mean, he hadn't seen him for maybe 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And Teddy just walks past him in the kitchen and goes into the room, yeah. Oh, yeah, cool out. They were John Killory and Paddy were the coolest, calmest people you'd ever meet. They weren't put out by anything. Paddy had arrived down Friday night in the pub with his fiddle. He brought the fiddle. When he went to the bathroom, he brought the fiddle with him. The fiddle never left his side, yeah. And John was a great raconteur, He had great stories, and he loved talking to people. Paddy now was more reserved, but an amazing musician. He played flute as well.
And they had the most incredible tunes. Like a lot of these tunes, like you don't hear them anymore. So
no, so a lot of those tunes died with them. It's like you've local. We were all taught how to sit dance when we were young, and different people had individual steps, like Packy Maloney, Landon Timmy, Paddy Williams, like great sit dancers. They developed their own steps, and those steps died with them. And the very same applied with the music in the area. A lot of tunes were lost when they died.
Yeah, thank God a few people did some of the work to preserve that material, such as uilleann that we've talked about.
Uilleann
with Dick Grant.
And Dick Grant, they made a huge effort to hold on to that. Christy Barry now, James Devitt, they have an enormous amount of the old tunes and a great knowledge of the music. I mean, they're like you would absolutely include Christy and James in the whole local scene, of Doolin.
And then so things like naturally evolved, like other musicians came to Doolin, and Could you tell us how things changed, maybe from when what very often people refer to as the old days, and then when more people came, do you know what I mean, that period?
Yeah, well, Ireland was going through hard times in the 60s and the 70s. You know, a lot of immigration. That affected the spirit of the village as well. And all people were really, they looked forward to playing music. That was their entertainment, but it was the time they were having some fun, because an awful lot of it was very depressing, because all the youth were leaving the country. You know, immigration was very prominent then. I left school in 1977, and I went to England to work in London, and every one of my class were in London. We used to meet in the Galtymore and Cricklewood every Friday and Saturday night. And that was a coming together of local people. But we weren't at home. We had to leave our village, you know. But so all those things had a big impact on the spirit of the village.
And so what happened then? How did things turned around?
I honestly, now not everyone will agree with this, but when we joined the EU, they started to give money to Ireland, and suddenly Ireland were financially better off. And people got the opportunity to be educated, young people. And to me, education is the ticket. It gives you freedom that you'd never have without it. Do you understand? So an awful lot of young people got the opportunity to go to university, and it gave them a confidence. And, that makes all the difference, really, when you're a young person, to have confidence. So I think that had a huge impact on the local community, and tourism then. Started to people, Doolin and the Cliffs of Moher, the Aran Islands, the Burn, like a combination of reasons people started to come here. And slowly but surely, the whole village started to improve, financially anyways.
Yeah, and how important was music in terms of that early tourism?
Oh, sure, it was the reason people were coming here. It started off with Irish people, the long weekends, to be people from Cork and Kerry and Dublin and Galway to come to Doolin for the crack. And that slowly built up, and then the word got out. It's the place to be for weekends, But yeah, music was, that's what it was about. The people and the music. The people made all the musicians that came to visit, the musicians from the area, made them feel so welcome that a lot of them never left. They felt so much at home in Doolin that they made it their home. And then slowly, the international market, Micho gone out to Germany, and the Furies, and publicising little villages like Doolin. Achill Island was another place that was starting to become very well known. So that would encourage Germans, when they were in Ireland, to come and visit Doolin.
Yeah, the Germans were very
early
big
days,
at the start, yeah.
The Germans, the Belgians, the Dutch were huge in the early days.
I think it's where kind of the European folk revival kind of was stronger.
Oh, absolutely. And Alan Stivell, a Breton musician, yeah. He came to, actually there was a film made of Alan Stivell down in the pub in O'Connor's years and years ago. Micho Russell was in it. What's his name? Willie Clancy was in it.
It's so funny to think now of somebody like Alan Stivell, who went to be a musician that does massive stadiums, a huge concert, playing with these old lads like Packy and
yeah.
Willie Clancy.
And I saw a clip of it now in the last few years, when Willie was being interviewed, and Alan Stivell was asking him whatever about the music, and Willie just said, "Well, we're telling you nothing but lies."
And it was probably true, wasn't it?
Well, they made it up as they went along.
That's the only time he said the truth.
Yeah. But no one ever interviewed anyone years ago. I mean, you just talked. Do it wasn't like it wasn't a done thing. Whereas nowadays everyone is being interviewed, they're being photographed. I mean, it's a whole new way of doing things.
But they were well able for it, the likes of Willie Clancy and Micho Russell, like they had, because there were characters and they would tell these. I always, the few videos there of Willie Clancy speaking even more than playing, you can see that spark in his eye. That he was like
the divly. He was great. He was such a character. It's so funny. But they enjoyed all that attention. You have to realise that people live in isolated areas like Doolin, which it was a rural part of Ireland. And suddenly people have shown an interest in their music, for one thing. But in the people and playing the music. Like, it was a real privilege for people to be making the effort to come and see them and making them feel important. Sure, isn't that what we all want at the end of the day?
Yeah,
someone to make us feel important.
a bit of attention, but
yeah.
In terms of music, it's also that, because I suppose when these musicians were younger, they were probably looked down on. You know, playing music was never.
Oh.
In playing places like Doolin now, it's different, but in general in Ireland, I believe it was not always seen very well.
Not at all. I often used to hear my mother say, her uncle Willie used to play the fiddle up in Roscommon now, and Ma'am, you see, everyone would look at him when they'd see him in the street with the fiddle under his arm. They say, "There goes Willie, the local bum." So there was that kind of an attitude towards musicians, that you'd nearly be considered homeless, kind of stupid, and it was far from the truth. But nowadays they're revered, so it has totally transformed, which is fantastic.
And I would argue that the reason why Doolin built this reputation is more than likely because of your parents in Gus O'Connor's pub, who actually didn't have that attitude of looking down on musicians and, on the contrary, welcomed them, which wasn't a common thing at the time.
Sure, my mother and father loved it. I mean, my mother, God rest her now, but before she died, I said, she was down in the Limerick Hospital, and I said to Ma'am, have you any regrets in the world? And she wasn't from Doolin, like I say, she was from Roscommon. And she said, Susan, the day I turned the bridge in 1957 was one of the happiest days of my life. She said the local people, like the Quailshes, everyone in the village, they looked after Ma'am. She looked after them, but in return they looked after her. Very kind people, really. And there was a great sense of community years ago. So for that reason, when anyone that visited, they were made feel part of the community. I mean, to me, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
It's so important to make people feel wanted and welcome, more than ever.
Yeah, that's going to be a great transition now, because we can talk about your business as a B&B owner and welcoming more people, continuing that tradition. But maybe before we go into that, will we play a bit of music again? Maybe a tune, or do you want to try and sing a song maybe?
I'll sing. I wouldn't have to sing all the verses, would I?
Do a couple verses would be lovely.
Okay, I'll sing this song, and it's a lonesome song. It's called The Returned Soldier. A great singer from this area, Michael Sherlock, used to sing this, I am not joking, every day in the pub when I was a young girl. And he had the most beautiful voice. Oh, and anyone local that ever heard him, I mean, people used to wait for Michael to start singing. Very lonesome, but had the most beautiful tone to his voice. And from listening to Michael, this is the song. I learned the song because of that.
Lovely. Nice one.
So I hope it'll come out okay, Charles.
It'll be great. Thanks, Susan.
I was sitting side by side with my fond and loving bride, said a soldier who had just returned from war. Oh, he'd been away for years from his native land so dear, fighting for his king and country's cause. But now he has returned from his native land to mourn, to find his loving wife dying in his arms. Oh, he pressed her to his heart, knowing soon that they must part. And these were all the loving words he said. Darling, live till morn, let me see the daybreak dawn. Let me gaze upon your beauty once again. I wish that I was slain when to Ireland first I came, to meet with you and part with you again. Sinead, Charles.
Lovely, Susan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that song. I mean, I didn't sing all of it now. I don't want to bore you to tears, but those two verses, yeah, I love them.
Well, I'm not bored. I'm sure I'm getting messages of people asking for the full version now. So we'll record the full version another day, maybe.
All right, John.
So yeah, you played a lot of music when you were a teenager, young adult, and what happened then?
Well, I did. I used to love it now, absolutely. At home, I'd be playing Micho, myself, Packy. But the pub got busier and I was working a lot. So there was no time to play. To be honest, it was that simple. We got very busy and having a family business, we were expected to be there. So music took a secondary place in my life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that was the reason, to be honest with you, And then I went to London, and actually in London I used to go to Camden Town on Sunday mornings, and I'd meet Paul Thiesby, who was a lovely, lovely man.
Yes.
His daughter is Katie Thiesby, the great singer and musician.
Yeah, Paul played the fiddle.
Oh, he was just such lovely. I loved Paul Thiesby.
He was a very, very kind man.
Oh, very kind. So I met up with him. He himself, and he's the lads that used to play with him. Paul had contacted me while I was in London, and so I'd go to Camden Town on Sunday mornings for the session. But once I came home when I was nearly 21. I really didn't play much after that at all. Yeah, because work took over. Life took over, Charles.
Yeah, work and family life.
Work and family life, yeah.
Yeah, but you managed to. You always stayed connected to the music. It's not that you didn't play, but obviously music was happening every day in the pub.
A huge part of my life.
Yeah.
Oh, and it still is. I mean, COVID definitely. I played more music during COVID than I think I ever did in my life. But I listen to music all the time. I have. Oh God, it's a huge part of my life now. But I don't play it, which is. But that scene has kind of changed as well.
It is, but it's nice even to, every now and then to pick up the whistle at home and play a few tunes and have you here on the podcast.
I know, oh my God almighty.
It's great. It is fantastic.
I feel like a right fake now being here on this podcast. Trust me.
You've all the stories and the way you play the tunes. Like, I'll still work. We'll play one more set of tunes. I'll see if I can get you to play on your own, but we'll see. We have probably about 10, 15 minutes to convince you that. But yeah, you mentioned earlier that welcoming tradition in Doolin, as much as the music scene, but just the local scene in general, you've kept that tradition going through your entire life, first in the pub and then through the B&B, because you've been running a bread and breakfast for many years.
Yeah, I've been running the B&B, which I can't hardly believe, for 38 years. Time has just flown past, but... Yeah, I've been very privileged. I've had people from all over the world stay, and what I feel very strongly about is that the whole sense of making people feel at home in our community. You welcome them into your home, you look after them, and people really enjoy that. Like, it's important to people to be taken care of, and I think we should all most definitely find the time to make people feel special while they're in Doolin. And I think everyone really makes an effort to do that. I mean, that's what kind of sets Doolin apart from other little villages. And that's to do with tourism now. They make the effort, to make a very special effort to make people feel at home while they're in Doolin.
And that's a tradition, like you were saying, that's been going on in the village for
years.
For 50,
yeah.
Probably 5
and
decades more.
It's proved that is the recipe for success, and I just don't mean financial success.
And now, so you've seen people coming to Doolin for all these years. How do you find their approach to music has changed? Are they still mad for it, or is there like a different kind of demand? How have things changed in that sense?
Oh yeah, well, there is definitely a change. Obviously, people don't drink. In one time you went to the pub and you stayed all day, the session we going. No one was worried about, taking time out to have a wild day in the pub.
Yeah,
But nowadays,
time was not.
time was of no consequence really. But it is now. It's all about time now.
Yeah.
You know, people have deadlines to meet. The internet has probably revolutionized the whole way we do business now, the whole way we live our lives now, at the end of the day. And a lot of our lives are dictated by social media. So from that point of view, that our way of life has changed dramatically. And then we've had 2 years of COVID, so that's even put another iron in the fire, you know. It's like things have... But you have to... The spirit is still alive and well here.
The spirit is still alive and well, and I suppose music also adapted to these changes.
Oh, absolutely, and adapted very well. Very well. And you've a lot of younger people coming up now playing great music. And that keeps the whole thing alive, you know, for generations to come, with the help of God.
Yeah. Do you feel a connection between the younger musicians now and the older musicians from back in the days?
Well, that's a hard one to answer, because they're living in such a different Irish way of life now. Like, Irish living and Irish way of life has changed so dramatically in the last 10 or 15 years. So that impacts everything, how we play music, how we live our lives, everything. So that'd be a hard one to answer now, Charles.
Yeah, and I don't mean it in either a good way or a bad way, but I'm just interested to see, because I've been talking with certain people on this podcast about how, you know, about the spirit of the music very often, and there's always finding this balance between what we need to preserve, and then music is evolving all the time. So I was just your opinion on where the balance is these days. Maybe think about the musicians that you like listening to at the moment.
Oh yeah, and I mean they have a real... I mean, you can see that they love the music. That's very obvious. And I mean, some of them are... I mean, they excel beyond belief as musicians. It's just a different way now. How the session is still very much there, but they're traveling. The whole gig scene has come into play now in a big way. So all that influences the way people play music, I think.
Yeah.
It's when people say years ago was their way of life, it's a whole different way of life now to be an Irish music, traditional Irish musician.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, basically what you're saying is it's still a way of life. It's just the way of life is different.
Has changed.
But the graph for it is still there.
Oh
obviously.
yeah, they'd have to love it to devote as much time as they are giving to it. But it's just the whole gig scene, that is, you know, people make their living now from playing traditional Irish music. And I think that's fantastic. And they're accepted and revered as people and as musicians. Finally, they're getting the acceptance that they deserve. And like you, Charles, you've just completed your Masters in traditional Irish music. You can go on and do your PhD. I mean, when I was a young girl, oh my God, they'd just laugh at you.
Yeah,
I mean,
that didn't even exist.
Not at all. But people would never even contemplate it, that there was a chance it might exist.
It was not academic worthy, I suppose.
Can you imagine? It is now, though. And thank God it is.
Yeah.
Because it deserves that kind of recognition.
And it's actually really lovely to hear that, because it does happen every now and then that through conversations you get that feeling from people that have been playing music for 50 years and all that if you listen to certain people, you'd swear things are really bad and tough and we're losing the music, and that kind of
No, like you say, music evolves, and it's very important. You know, it grows, it evolves, and everyone has their own interpretation of music at the end of the day. And the younger generation, because their lives around them are so different. I mean, all that influences the way they play music. So it does change the style and when I say the sound, but in some cases it changes the sound as well. But I think, you know, change is good. We can't live in the past. We have, and it's important that people, you know, for it to continue, traditional Irish music for it to continue, I think it's important that the younger generation get their chance of playing it their way. You know, the past cannot dictate the present.
Yeah, it's more something that you carry with you.
Yeah, and you're influenced by, but at the end of the day, you develop your own interpretation.
Yeah. And tell me, what's the music that you really like listening to these days, or the settings? What's the last time you were either at a session or listening to a recording and you were like, oh, this is great music?
Oh, well, I mean, I love Noel Hill and Tony Lennon playing. I listen to them every day, every single day of the week.
That album is...
This is as old as myself.
75, 76,
yeah. I just love their music. I think they're amazing musicians. But in the local pubs in Doolin and O'Connor's, I was at the Doolin Inn and there was some musicians playing there and it was really lovely. That was a different setting again, which is unusual to have music playing in the restaurant while we were dining.
I hope that was one of the night I was there.
I'm trying to think, were you there? Well, maybe you were, Charles. But McGann's, McDermott's, Fitzpatrick's. I go to Fiddle Case on Monday nights in Fitzpatrick's.
Oh yeah,
really nice.
I remember you've said it to me many times. You really love, especially the O'Connell brothers. Brilliant. And the songs and. Oh yeah. And I also know Adam is one of your favourite fiddle players.
Brilliant. He's great feeling in his music.
He does.
Oh yeah, love him. Yeah.
There's someone I need to bring on the podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Owen O'Neill, of course, is plays with them as well. No, it's great. So you have a nice variety of music in the Doolin area. 7 nights a week, which is just... I mean, there aren't many rural villages in Ireland, in the west of Ireland, that offer that to people.
There are not many towns that offer that. Even Limerick doesn't offer that.
Yeah. But you think of the calibre of musicians in the area. Like you've the likes of Kevin Griffin, extraordinary musician.
Kevin is the best banjo player
without
in the country.
question.
I'm probably biased living here, but he's unbelievable.
Yeah, and his sister-in-law Pauline Brodie, and his brother Jerry, and then his brother John sings every so often. Great singer, John Griffin. Yeah, so there's a lot in the area. We're very lucky, and we've Noel O'Donoghue, Sean Vaughan. I mean, the list is endless, really. And yourself, Charles.
Thrown
in for good measure.
Yeah, but there's a few more people you haven't mentioned that you should mention before me. Like, I'm thinking James Cullinan and.
James Cullinan is like the cream of the crop, as they say, and Carol, and then when Angela Crotty comes up and Paul, her partner Paul. So the variety is endless, and they all contribute in a different way. And then the set dancing starts. James Cullen is an amazing set dancer. Angela Crotty, the same. And then we have our own local Buddy Flanagan, who we'd love to see more often. We don't see very often now in the pubs. But
talking about all these people just makes me sort of giddy thinking about the next Russell weekend. We have a few months to wait, but
it's been planned at the moment, from what I can gather. There's great talks about what's going to happen for the Micho Russell now. Next year, so we're all looking forward to it. Would you believe the B&B's already booked out for it? All the Norwegian people come over, Karen and Avril, they come over every year. Their friends have booked the house out for 3 nights. Yeah,
nice. Yeah. Something to really look forward to.
Oh yeah, and we love it.
I mean, there's going to be plenty of great sessions until then, but this is really the highlight of the year, isn't it? And a way to remember and celebrate the lives of Micho, Packy, Gussie, and the other old musicians that we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. And the huge contribution they've made to keeping Doolin, alive and well on the world stage, if you'd say.
Yeah. I think to actually finish this episode, it'd be lovely if maybe we play a tune in their memory, in their honour. What do you think?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, Charles, that'd be great.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for accepting to do this. It was a great pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Charles. Well, it was my pleasure to do this. I mean, God, I feel very honoured to be asked at all. Thank you.
Thanks for the stories. Then sure, we'll talk again soon. Then we'll have to record the full version of the song.
Okay. No
Thanks,
bother.
Susan. Bye. I hope you enjoyed our chat and tunes, and thanks again so much to Susan for coming on the show and playing a few tunes with me. If you'd like to know more about Susan's B&B, Daly's House, make sure to visit her website, dailyshouse.com. The link is in the description. Thank you again so much for listening to the Tunes From Doolin podcast, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes. It would be very helpful if you could tell your friends about the show too, share it on social media, and feel free to visit the Patreon page if you would like to support. If you would like to know more about the Tunes From Doolin project, you can check out the website and YouTube channel. You can also email me at tunesfromdoolin@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Thanks again, and see you at the next episode.